the old world won't matter. And
Yeah.
you heard the
Yeah.
BitConnect guy, right? But let's be real, guys. Let's be adults in the room, right? We know that there are some things in the past that maybe were not ideal, and that's why decentralized assets, decentralized finance starts to rise. But at the same time, there are some very good practices, especially on risk, on compliance, that are essential to a functioning financial system and will protect us from the large implosions we saw in 2022. So I think that it's about everyone trying to reach out to each other and say, let's build something that's actually usable by humans. I mean, I'll just be very specific here. Like, most of us don't know how the electricity actually gets to us. We just know we flip a switch and it works.
Right.
We know how to use banking. That way we write a check, or in Singapore, we just send pay now or something.
Yeah.
But crypto's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
And I think that crypto is going to do for transactions what Instagram did for photos. You don't have to be a Photoshop expert to come up with a filter and
Yeah.
post a bunch of nice
Exactly.
pics. I think what we are all building, and from different disciplines, different sides of the coin, we're going to arrive at the same point, but that's where it starts. It starts here.
I think it's a mindset change, right? Like, we're trying to make things, if I say we're, like, I'm a founder, if you're a tech founder soon. But you guys are trying to make things easier for businesses and everyday people to do what they need to do in the space. And it is a mindset shift, and it's busting a myth. And I like to kind of have this segment to talk about myth busters because, quite frankly, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I speak to, when they think about Singapore, they think, I'm afraid to go there and set up. I'm afraid to go to Singapore
Love
to
it.
set up a business.
Yeah.
And that's a myth based upon their ideas about getting licensed, about taxes, about operating and navigating a business in Singapore. And so, just to kind of bust that myth, Samson, what really has been the experience in, you mentioned the licenses that Faz has in getting those licenses?
Well, I might be biased, right? Because I'm Singaporean. Of course, Singapore is a great place to do business. We started this company, we incorporated it back in 2014, so it's been 10 years since. There's been a lot of governmental support in terms of capability development, in terms of hiring, wages support, and even government grants in certain selected areas. So the general ecosystem here has been very, very conducive for startups as well as new SMEs to really grow in the region. So that I see as a foundational enabling piece, right? Next up, for the regulated businesses, I think that's kind of where there may be some concerns from some of the international companies. There may be some concerns on the kind of maybe they see news articles about our regulators being very tough on certain stances. Like, for example, MAS. The MAS has said before that trading in cryptocurrencies is very risky. They have also warned consumers about it. And that may be seen or perceived by the international community that Singapore is not welcoming to Web3, which actually very, very, very far from reality. So we see the speculative trading of certain crypto tokens. I think that is the one that MAS is frowning upon. Because if you really think about it, maybe they don't see a real value creation from an economic point of view, right? You're not growing trees, you're not producing apples. You're just taking existing apples and buying and selling them for a higher price with no value addedness. So I think if anything, Singapore has been very consistent is in value adding. It's how do we take something and improve upon it and thereby create value for ourselves and for the world. And so if we look at it from that lens, I think for any entrepreneur or international businesses who want to come to Singapore, as long as you look at it from the lens of how do I add value to the customers, to the ecosystem, to the world, I believe they would feel very welcoming that a lot of those policies are actually enabling them to do so. So our personal example is our stablecoin business. So if we recall, it was just short, like 1 or 2 years ago, where we had certain stable coins that unraveled and were not as stable as we thought it would be. And one of the reactions the regulators had around the world was then looking at this asset class, right? It's the asset class of a stable coin and seeing like, what is the use case of a stable coin? Does it have a use in the world, in the financial system of today? And I think regulators around the world do recognize that there is a place for stable coins or coins that reference or take value to a government-issued fiat currency. So with that value in mind, and I can share with you more on our work with Project Orchid, but with that value in mind, I think that's where the government came about enabling legislation to help consumers differentiate between the different classes of stablecoins, and then to regulate one class of stablecoins as being more consumer, with a kind of stablecoin with more consumer protection. So I think that's kind of where you see how the government's enabling policy has impacted a business like ours, where we're trying to create real world value.
I like to think of it as, how you're describing it. It's like child asks the parent for a snack before dinner, right? Can I have these chips? No. You said I can't eat. No, you can't eat the chips. How about you have this, right?